The night was silent. Only the faint hum of the wind passed through the broken ruins of an old outpost. Captain Daniel Ross moved carefully among the crumbled walls. His boots crunching on the dust, he had been sent to investigate reports of strange activity near the border at first. He thought it was only another false alarm. The readings from his scanner told him something else was here, something alive. He stopped suddenly. His flashlight caught the trace of movement, a shadow. Slipping deeper into the ruins, Daniel raised his voice. "Who's there?" His hand rested on the grip of his blaster, but there was no answer, only the echo of his own words. He took slow steps forward, his heart pounded. He had seen many things in the war raiders, smugglers, even desperate settlers hiding in forbidden zones. But when he turned the corner, he froze. There, against the broken stone wall, sat an alien. Her skin was pale silver with faint glowing marks running across her arms. Her eyes burned with a defiant light, sharp and unyielding, unlike most fugitives he had seen. She did not look frightened. She looked like someone ready to fight until her last breath. Daniel aimed his blaster. "Stay where you are." The alien tilted her head slightly, then gave a faint smirk. "Go ahead, human. Do what you think you must." Her voice was calm but carried a heavy edge. The captain frowned. He expected begging, excuses, maybe even silence. But this alien spoke like someone who had nothing to lose. "What the hell am I supposed to do with you?" Daniel burst out, his frustration spilling into his words. The alien raised her chin proudly. Her wrists were scraped as if she had run for miles. Her clothes were torn, but her eyes never looked away from his. "I am not your enemy," she said. Coldly, "but you wouldn't believe me if I told you the truth." Daniel's grip tightened on his weapon. He had heard those words before. Many fugitives claimed innocence. Many had said they were victims. But something about her tone was different. She spoke not to convince him, but as if she was already resigned, as if the truth was too heavy for him to carry. For a moment, silence stretched between them.
Only
The distant sound of falling rocks filled the air. Daniel stepped closer, keeping his blaster steady. "You're a fugitive. You've been marked as dangerous. Why shouldn't I take you in right now?" The alien's lips curled slightly, not into fear, but into defiance. "Because the ones chasing me are more dangerous than you can imagine, and if you hand me over, you hand over your world as well." Her words hit him like a sudden strike. He tried to keep his face unreadable, but inside, doubt stirred. Still, he shook his head. "You expect me to believe that?" Her glowing eyes narrowed. "I expect you to survive, human. Nothing more." Daniel felt his anger rise. Yet at the same time, unease crawled into his chest. He hated how calm she looked, how her words carried weight he couldn't dismiss. The ruins around them groaned as the wind pushed through broken metal beams. The place felt like a tomb, yet in this silence, her presence seemed louder than the storm. Finally, Daniel pulled a pair of restraints from his belt. "Stand up, you're coming with me, like it or not." The alien slowly rose to her feet. Her movements were graceful despite her injuries for a second. Daniel noticed something strange. The glowing marks on her skin pulsed faintly, like veins carrying light instead of blood. She extended her wrists without a word, but her stare never softened. It was not surrender, it was challenge, as Daniel locked the restraints around her. He muttered under his breath, "You're either the bravest liar I've ever met, or the most dangerous truth-teller alive." The alien leaned closer, her voice barely above a whisper. "Then you must decide. Quickly, human, because they are already coming." Before Daniel could ask what she meant, distant rumble shook the ground beneath them. The night sky lit up with faint red lights, far in the distance approaching ships. Daniel turned his head toward the glow, his instincts screaming that trouble was closing in fast. He looked back at the alien fugitive, her defiant gaze still locked on him, and in that moment, for the first time, Captain Daniel Ross wondered if capturing her was not the solution, but the beginning of something much bigger. The red glow in the sky grew brighter, spreading across the clouds like fire. Daniel tightened his grip on the alien fugitive's arm, pulling her deeper into the ruins. His training told him to call for backup, but something inside whispered that if he did, they would all be walking into a trap. The alien walked beside him, wrists bound, yet her expression carried no fear. Her glowing eyes reflected the lights above as if she had already expected them. "Who are they?" Daniel demanded, keeping his voice low but firm. The alien gave a sharp breath that almost sounded like laughter. "Hunters. It's not yours, not mine. They belong to the Empire. If they find me, you will not live long enough to regret your choice." Daniel stopped, dragging her against the wall. "Empire? What empire? Humanity has treaties with every known council. You think I'll believe a criminal over official reports?" Her jaw clenched, but she leaned closer, her voice steady, then explained this. "Why are patrol ships from an unknown faction flying across your skies tonight?" Daniel froze. He had no answer. His scanner had picked up strange signals for weeks, but Command dismissed them as static, background interference. Now, seeing those ships with his own eyes, doubt clawed at his chest. The alien watched his silence carefully. "You feel it, don't you? That you are standing at the edge of something much larger. That is why you did not call your men. Deep down, you already know you can't trust them with this." Daniel hated how right she sounded. Forward, muttering, "You talk too much." They moved quickly through the shadows, but the roar of engines grew louder. A low vibration spread through the ground. Dust rained from the broken ceiling as the ruins shook. The hunters were close. Suddenly the alien stumbled, her legs giving way. Daniel caught her instinctively before she hit the ground. For a brief second, her skin touched his hand, and it burned cold, like ice mixed with lightning. The glowing marks across her arms flared brighter, pulsing with strange energy. "What the hell?" Daniel whispered, pulling his hand back. The alien lifted her head slowly, her voice weak but urgent. "Listen, human. I will give you one truth, because you need it more than I need freedom." Daniel frowned, his blaster still drawn, but his curiosity stronger than his suspicion. "Speak." "No." She took a deep breath. "The Empire I fled. They do not just conquer planets, they consume them. They drain worlds until nothing remains but dust and silence. I was part of their army, a weapon in their hands. But I saw what they did to my people, to my home, and I refused to destroy another world for them." Her eyes locked onto his, sharp as steel. "That is why they call me a traitor. That is why they will never stop hunting me. And if they find me here, your Earth will be next." Daniel's throat went dry. Her words pressed into him like a heavy weight. He wanted to reject them, call them lies, but deep inside, something cracked. He had heard whispers of missing colonies, strange energy signals, unexplained silence from outposts. Could this be the reason? Before he could reply, a blinding light swept across the ruins. A hunter drone descended, scanning the area. Its red eye flickered as it locked onto movement. Down. Daniel pulled the alien behind a collapsed wall just as a plasma beam scorched the stones. The blast shook the ground, filling the air with smoke. The alien raised her bound hands. "Untie me. If you want to live, untie me now." Daniel hesitated, torn between duty and survival. She was a fugitive, dangerous, unpredictable. But the drones above were real. The danger was real. His instinct screamed. In one swift motion, he released the restraints. The alien's hands glowed brighter as the marks across her skin lit like fire. She raised her palms toward the sky. Releasing a wave of energy that shattered the drone into pieces, Daniel stumbled back, eyes wide. "What are you?" The alien turned to him, her chest rising with heavy breaths, her voice steady once more. "Not your enemy. Not yet, but the choice is yours." The ground shook again, more drones were coming. Daniel looked at her, at the ruins, at the burning sky. For the first time in years of service, he realized Command had lied to him. They weren't prepared. Humanity wasn't prepared. And standing beside him was the only one who knew the truth. The ruins still smoked from the destroyed drone. Sparks fell from broken metal beams, glowing red in the darkness. Daniel's ears rang from the blast, but his eyes never left the alien. She stood tall, her glowing marks fading slowly, as if her power was slipping back beneath her skin. He had untied her. He had trusted her if only for survival. But now the question burned hotter than ever. What was she really? Daniel pointed his blaster at her again, his voice sharp. You saved me, but don't think that makes us allies. The alien tilted her head, a small trace of annoyance in her silver eyes. Then tell me, human. If we are not allies, how? Do you expect to fight what is coming? Before Daniel could answer, a deep rumble shook the ground. More hunter drones swept in, their red lights flickering as they circled above, but this time they weren't alone. A larger ship loomed in. The clouds, its hull black and alive with pulsing veins of light. Daniel's stomach dropped. That's no patrol craft. The alien nodded grimly. Oh, it is a hunter carrier. If they release the swarms, neither of us will leave this place alive. The first time, Daniel felt something he hadn't in years: fear, not just for himself, but for humanity. If one of those ships could appear here without warning, how many more were waiting just beyond the stars? The alien took a step closer, her voice low and firm. I don't need you to like me. I don't need you to trust me. No. But if you want to survive tonight, you will fight with me, not against me. Daniel hesitated, his blaster still raised. His training screamed to detain her, to wait for backup. But backup wouldn't come fast enough. The hunters were already here. Finally, he lowered the weapon slightly. Fine. But if you betray me, I won't. She cut in, her tone sharp. Because I need you as much as you need me. The words stung his pride, but he didn't argue. They moved quickly, slipping deeper into the ruins as the drones descended. Daniel covered their path with blaster fire, each shot tearing through metal wings, while the alien unleashed sudden bursts of energy from her hands, waves of light that cracked drones apart like fragile shells. For a brief moment, their movements flowed together, human skill and alien power, side by side, reluctant but effective. After the last drone fell, silence returned, broken only by Daniel's heavy breaths. He leaned against a shattered wall, staring at the smoking wreckage. You fight like a soldier. The alien gave no smile, only a cold truth. I was one, until I chose not to be. Daniel frowned, lowering himself onto a broken stone. So this empire of yours, they trained you, turned you into a weapon, and now you're running from them. Her gaze hardened. I am not running. I am resisting. There is a difference. For the first time, Daniel saw more than defiance in her eyes. Saw paneled, heavy, buried beneath layers of strength. Before he could ask more, the ground shook again. This time, not from drones, but from the massive carrier above. A beam of crimson light cut through the clouds, scanning the surface. The ruins trembled as the searchlight swept closer. The alien's marks glowed faintly once more. She turned to Daniel, urgency in her tone. We cannot stay. The carrier will not leave until I am captured or destroyed. If you stay with me, they will hunt you as well. Daniel clenched his fists. So what? I should abandon you? Pretend this never happened? Oh. Her silence was answer enough. She expected it. She'd lived her life expecting betrayal. But Daniel surprised even himself. When he shook his head, no, if what you're saying is true, then humanity's already in danger. If I hand you over, I might save myself tonight, but doom my people tomorrow. That's not who I am. For the first time, her eyes softened. Not much, but enough. A silent acknowledgement. The beam of light passed dangerously close. Dust fell from the ruins, coating them both in a pale layer. Daniel gritted his teeth. Where do we go? The alien pointed toward the mountains beyond the ruins. Underground tunnels. Old resistance networks. Can hide until the carrier leaves. Daniel exhaled slowly, lowering his blaster. Still didn't fully trust her. But he no longer had a choice. As they slipped into the night, side by side, he realized something terrifying. This alliance, fragile as it was, could be the only line standing between humanity and an empire it didn't even know existed. And for the first time, Captain Daniel Ross wasn't just a soldier. He was part of something much bigger, a war that hadn't yet reached Earth, but soon would. The ruins fell behind them, swallowed by smoke and the crimson glow of the hunter carrier above. Daniel and the alien fugitive moved swiftly through the broken ground, climbing over jagged stones and slipping into the open wastelands. The night stretched endlessly, a barren desert littered with bones of old war's rusted ships, shattered towers, and forgotten graves of both humans and aliens. The air carried the smell of metal and ash. Every step echoed against the silence. Yet Daniel knew they were not alone. The hunters were following. He could feel it in the tightening air, the way shadows shifted unnaturally. The alien glanced over her shoulder, her glowing marks dim but steady. They will not stop. The carrier has already marked us. You must keep moving until the tunnels. Daniel clenched his jaw, sweat dripping down his brow. His blaster was low on charge. He had only a handful of shots left. And if we don't make it to your tunnels? Our gaze flicked to him, cold and sharp. Then we die. The words were blunt, but there was no fear in them. That unsettled Daniel more than anything else. Suddenly, a piercing screech ripped through the night. Daniel looked up just in time to see metallic wings slicing the clouds. Dozens of hunter beasts, half machine, half living creatures, dived down like predators. Their eyes glowed red, their claws glinted under the starlight. Move, Daniel shouted. They sprinted across the wasteland as beams of energy scorched the ground behind them. Rocks exploded, sand turned to glass, and the air shook with every strike. Daniel ducked behind a fallen beam while the alien raised her glowing hands, releasing a shockwave that scattered the nearest hunters. But there were too many. One of the beasts lunged, knocking Daniel to the ground. Its claws dug into the dirt inches from his throat, wrestled with it, blaster pinned under its weight. The alien cried out, her marks burning bright as she unleashed a blast that threw the creature back into a twisted pile of metal. Daniel scrambled to his feet, chest heaving. He stared at her for a second, breathing hard. You saved me again. She didn't even look at him. I need you alive. Do not mistake it for kindness. He smirked, despite himself. You're welcome to keep needing me. Another screech cut the air. A massive shadow fell across the ground as the carrier above opened its hatch. From its belly poured a swarm of hunter drones, hundreds of them glowing like fireflies of death. Daniel's heart pounded. We'll never outrun that. The alien grabbed his arm, pulling him toward a jagged canyon that cut across the wasteland. There is another way. Follow me. They dashed toward the canyon as the swarm descended. Plasma beams streaked past, exploding in showers of dust and fire, leaped over broken rocks, his lungs burning, his body screaming for rest. But the alien kept pulling him forward with relentless determination. The canyon walls rose around them, sheltering them briefly. From the drones above, Daniel collapsed against the stone, panting. This is insane. We can't fight all of them. The alien turned, her silver eyes glowing faintly in the shadows. No, but we can outsmart them. She pressed her palm against the canyon wall. The glowing marks across her skin spread into the stone-like veins of light. The wall rumbled, ancient mechanisms stirring. With a grinding roar, a hidden passage cracked open, revealing dark stairs that spiraled downward. Daniel blinked. In shock, what is this place? Her voice dropped into something almost reverent, the bones of a forgotten resistance. My people built these tunnels long ago, before the Empire silenced them. Only a few of us still remember the way. Daniel's pulse quickened. Secret underground world hidden beneath the wastelands? He wanted to ask more, but the swarm's shrieks echoed above, growing closer. The alien met his eyes. This is the choice, human. Step inside or face the Empire's teeth. For a heartbeat, Daniel hesitated. Every part of his training told him to stay on the surface, to wait for his command, to follow protocol. But protocol had no answers for this. Protocol hadn't warned him about an empire consuming planets. He gritted his teeth, holstered his blaster, and nodded. Lead the way. The alien stepped into the passage, her glow lighting the stairs. Daniel followed close, the stone door sliding shut behind them. The canyon fell silent once more, erasing their escape, but Daniel knew the hunt wasn't over. Deep below the earth, in tunnels carved by rebels long forgotten, he and the fugitive were bound together, now not by trust, but by survival. And as the ground trembled with the distant roar of the carrier above, Daniel realized something chilling. If the Empire was this determined to capture one fugitive, then her secret wasn't just dangerous. It was powerful enough to change the fate of humanity itself. The stone door sealed shut above them with a heavy groan, leaving Daniel and the alien fugitive in darkness. For a moment, the silence was so deep that Daniel could hear only his own heartbeat. Then, faint blue light flickered through the tunnels, aliens' glowing marks spreading a dim radiance across the stone walls. The air was thick, carrying the scent of dust and something older, almost metallic, as if the tunnels had not been touched in centuries. Daniel's boots crunched softly on the uneven ground as he followed her down the spiraling stairs. Finally, the stairs ended in a wide cavern. Daniel stopped, staring in awe. The chamber stretched high and vast, with carved symbols glowing faintly. On the walls, broken machines rested in corners, their designs strange, half organic, half metal. Old banners, shredded with time, still clung to the stone pillar symbols of a rebellion long forgotten. "This place," Daniel whispered. "What is it?" The alien paused, her silver eyes reflecting the faint blue light. "It was once a stronghold of my people, a place where we dared to dream of freedom." Daniel walked slowly past the ruined machines, running his hand across a cracked console. "Freedom from who? It's the Empire you keep talking about?" She nodded. "Yes, they call themselves eternal, immortal, but they are not gods. They are thieves, who take what they cannot create. Worlds, life, even memories, they consume all." Daniel frowned, turning back to her. "And you?"
What were you in all this?
Her face darkened. She stepped closer to one of the glowing walls, tracing the carved symbols with her fingers. "I was a weapon in their hands. Taken when I was a child, raised in their war camps, taught to kill without question." Her voice wavered for the first time, but she did not stop. "I burned villages that resisted. I watched my people chained. I thought obedience would keep me alive. But one day they sent me to cleanse a world, a small colony, weak, defenseless. When I looked into the eyes of a human child begging for mercy, I realized I was no longer alive at all. I was their machine." Daniel's breath caught. The cavern felt colder, so he turned against them. She faced him now, her glowing eyes fierce. "Yes, I chose to betray them before I betrayed myself. I killed my commanders. I fled with knowledge they feared. That is why they hunt me without rest. Because inside me are the coordinates of something the Empire hides, even from itself." Daniel stiffened. "Coordinates?" The alien nodded slowly. "To a prison world, a place where they keep their greatest secret. Humanity learns of it. The Empire will lose its hold on the stars." Daniel's mind reeled. A prison world? Secret powerful enough to frighten an empire? It sounded impossible yet, after everything he had seen. He couldn't dismiss it, but before he could speak, the cavern shuddered. Dust rained from the ceiling as a low hum echoed through the tunnels. Daniel instinctively raised his blaster. "What was that?" The alien's eyes narrowed.
"Oh, they are searching."
"The hunters will not stop at the surface. They will dig, and they will find us." Daniel cursed under his breath. "Then we don't have long. You need to tell me why." "Me? Why trust a human soldier with this? You don't even know me." For a moment she studied him, her gaze sharp as a blade. "'Cause when you had the chance to hand me over, you didn't, because you looked at me and saw more than a fugitive. Because whether you like it or not, your kind is different." Daniel raised a brow. "Different how?" She stepped closer, her voice dropping into a whisper. "The Empire calls your species a paradox. Fragile, yet unyielding. Short-lived, yet impossible to erase. You are not the strongest, not the fastest, not the most advanced, but you endure. And that endurance terrifies them." Daniel stared at her, speechless. No one had ever spoken of humanity that way, not even humans. Before he could reply, the walls trembled again, this time louder, closer. The sound of drilling, claws tearing stone. The hunters were coming. The alien turned to him, her glow burning brighter. "Decide now, Captain. Stay and fight with me, or leave and watch your world burn. The truth I carry is no longer mine. Alon, it belongs to you as well." Daniel gripped his blaster, his heart pounding. He looked at her, at the ruins of the rebellion around them, at the shadows of an empire he had never seen but could already feel pressing against the edges of his world, and for the first time, he knew there was no turning back. Asterisk, the tunnels shook again, dust falling like rain from the ceiling. Daniel and the alien fugitive ran deeper, their footsteps echoing through the forgotten halls of the rebellion. The glowing marks on her arms lit their way, casting ghostly shadows across the walls. Behind them, the grinding noise of drills grew louder. The hunters were coming fast. They finally reached a wide chamber where broken consoles and empty supply crates lay scattered. Old banners hung in tatters, whispering of a war that never won.
At!
Daniel scanned the place quickly. We can hold here. By ourselves some time. The alien shook her head firmly. Time is a trap. It will keep sending more until we are cornered. Before Daniel could argue, the faint crackle of a cum unit burst in his earpiece. A voice called out through static familiar, sharp and commanding. Captain Ross, report. Do you copy? This is Central Command. We've tracked your signal. Extraction team inbound, hold position. Daniel froze. For a moment, relief swept through him. Command had found him. Reinforcements were on the way. He reached to answer. The alien gripped his wrist, her eyes flashing. Don't. Daniel narrowed his eyes. That's my team. They'll get us out of here. Her voice turned harsh, almost desperate. No, they're not coming for you. They are coming for me. The Empire's lies are already inside your command. Can't you see? Why do you think they dismissed your reports before? Why do you think they let the hunters cross your skies without warning? The words cut deep. Daniel wanted to deny it, to trust his own people. But memory stabbed back how Command ignored strange signals. How they pushed him into this assignment alone, how no backup ever came until now, when he stood beside her, before he could decide. Heavy boots clanged through the tunnels, floodlights, cut across the chamber as armored soldiers stormed in, rifles raised. Captain Ross, their leader, barked, "Step aside."
Oh, that fugitive is under our jurisdiction.
Daniel raised his blaster instinctively.
Wait, how did you get here so
fast? The soldiers didn't answer. They fanned out, surrounding the alien. Their guns locked on her chest, red laser dots dancing across her skin. She stood tall, unflinching, her glow steady. "Stand down, Ross," the commander ordered. "That thing is dangerous. We'll take her from here." Daniel's chest tightened. His instincts screamed wrong. Everything about this felt rehearsed, too precise, too easy. The alien turned her head slightly, meeting his eyes. She didn't speak, but her look said everything. "This is the betrayal I warned you about." Daniel swallowed hard. "She's so dangerous, why capture her alive? Why not kill her here?" The commander's helmet tilted. "Orders. Higher than you, Captain. Now hand her over." Something inside Daniel snapped. He realized the truth. His command wasn't here to protect him. They were here to deliver her to the Empire. But he was still a soldier. These were still his men. His loyalty wavered, tearing him apart. The alien broke the silence. Her voice was calm, almost mocking. "Go ahead, human. Choose. Obey your masters, or obey your conscience." Daniel's grip tightened on his blaster. His heart pounded in. His chest, for years, duty had been his anchor, his shield. But now, staring at the soldiers, aiming at her, he saw not protectors, but pawns. And he remembered her words, "If you hand me over, you hand over your world as well." But before he could move, the decision was ripped from him. One of the soldiers fired. A stun blast hit the alien square in the chest. She staggered, her glow flickering. Violently before collapsing to the ground, Daniel shouted, "No." Rushing forward, but two rifles swung toward him instantly. "Stand down, Captain." The commander barked again. "You've done your part. We'll take it from here." Daniel froze, rage burning inside him. The alien lay motionless, her body glowing faintly in the dark. They shackled her with restraints lined in strange metal. It's not standard issue tools built for her kind as they dragged her away. Daniel caught one last glimpse of her eyes flickering open, locking on his. Even in chains, even half-conscious, her stare was not of surrender. It was a promise, and Daniel knew that whatever trap had been set here, he had walked right into it. The commander gave him a nod. "You did well, Ross. Your loyalty will be remembered." But Daniel didn't feel loyal. He felt like a man who had just betrayed the only one telling the truth. The chamber echoed with the sound of boots as the soldiers carried her deeper into the tunnels. Daniel stood alone, torn between the uniform on his chest and the fire in his heart. And in that moment, Captain Daniel Ross realized his next choice would decide more than just his career. It would decide whether humanity would stand free or kneel before an empire it didn't even know was coming. The soldiers dragged the alien fugitive down the tunnel, her glowing marks flickering weakly under the weight of the restraints. Captain Daniel Ross followed in silence, his mind tearing itself apart. His uniform told him to obey. His heart told him he had just handed humanity's future to the wrong side. Every step echoed like judgment. The deeper they went, the colder the tunnels became, the walls wet with age, carved long ago by rebels who had fought the same empire, now stalking them. Daniel felt the irony burn history repeating itself, and he was standing on the wrong page. At the far end of the chamber, floodlights lit up a landing zone where a sleek black shuttle waited. Its design wasn't human, sharp, curved, alive with pulsing veins of light. Daniel's chest tightened. That wasn't an Earth ship. It was the Empire's. His blood ran cold. His command hadn't come to extract him. They had come to deliver her. The alien lifted her head weakly, her silver eyes locking on Daniel even as chains cut into her wrists. No words, no plea. Only that look. A look that asked one last question. "Will you let them take me? Will you let your world burn?" The commander raised his arm. "Secure her in the shuttle. The Empire wants her alive." Daniel's breath caught. The words confirmed everything. His command was compromised, nothing more than puppets on strings pulled by an unseen empire. Something inside him snapped. He ripped his blaster free and shouted, "Stop!" The soldiers froze, turning their rifles toward him. The commander's. The voice was sharp. "Ross, stand down. That's an order." Daniel's finger tightened on the trigger. No, that's betrayal. For the first time in years, Daniel chose not to obey. Fired, the chamber exploded into chaos. A soldier dropped with a cry, his armor sparking. The others shouted, returning fire. Beams of energy scorched the walls, filling the air with smoke. Daniel dove behind an old console, his blaster roaring. The alien, still chained, rolled to cover, her glowing marks flaring faintly. She shouted above the chaos, "Break the restraints." Daniel fired at the locks binding her arms. Sparks flew and the strange metal cracked. The alien roared, her power surging free. Light burst across her body like fire racing through veins. With a scream, she unleashed a shockwave that hurled soldiers against the walls. Armor shattered, rifles snapped in half. The chamber trembled as her power filled the air. The commander staggered, his visor cracked. "You fool, Ross. You've doomed us all." Daniel stood tall, smoke curling around him, his blaster aimed steady. "No, I've finally chosen right." The alien rose beside him, her chains falling in glowing fragments. For the first time, she smiled. Small, fierce smile. "Now you fight with me." Together, they turned on the commander as the shuttle's engines roared to life. Empire reinforcements were coming. If the shuttle escaped with her, it would signal Earth's weakness. If they destroyed it, they could send a different message. Humanity would not kneel. The commander lunged, swinging his rifle like a blade. Daniel blocked, his blaster smashing against the weapon. Sparks flew as they fought hand to hand, blows echoing through the cavern. Meanwhile, the alien raised her hands, glowing light pulsing like a storm. She unleashed it all in one final strike. A wave of energy slammed into the shuttle, tearing its hull apart. The explosion lit the tunnels like a rising sun, fire rushing outward. Swallowing the landing zone, Daniel tackled the commander aside just as the blast wave hit. Heat scorched his skin, debris rained down, and the tunnel shook like it would collapse. When the dust cleared, The shuttle was nothing but twisted wreckage. The soldiers were gone, scattered or broken. Only Daniel and the aliens stood in the silence, breathing hard, alive. Daniel lowered his blaster slowly, his chest heaving. That was insane. The alien's glow dimmed, her face pale, but her eyes fierce. It was survival. And now, human, you have seen the truth. Your world is already in their shadow, but you chose to fight. Daniel met her gaze. Steady now, then I'll keep fighting. Not as their soldier, not as their pawn, but as humanity's shield. For the first time, the alien bowed her head. In submission, but in respect. Together, they walked deeper into the tunnels, away from the wreckage. The two fugitives, one human and one alien, bound not by trust, not by friendship, but by a shared defiance. And as Daniel stepped into the darkness, he understood one thing with burning clarity. This was no longer just her fight. It was humanity's war.